Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, my crazy mother-in-law despises me because I have a different ethnicity than her. This entitled woman demanded that I pay $50,000 for her overpriced honeymoon and finally called the police on me when I refused to do so. And I honestly could not be more angry at her. Here is what happened. The first one goes like this. I love my wife more than anything, but I cannot stand her mother. Even in the beginning of our relationship, the two of us did not get along. I could not believe that somebody as amazing as my wife came out of that woman. Even my wife's father decided to divorce her years ago, and when I met him, he even told me that she was insane. While my wife had a relationship with her mother until the events of this story, she was accepting that I did not want to associate with her. It wasn't just one-way hate either, because she made it clear right away that she did not like me. You see, I'm a Korean man and my wife and her family are all Chinese. Her mother was determined to get her daughter to only date and marry a Chinese man because she considered them the best. Just by being a different ethnicity, this woman hated me without any actual reason. Anyway, I'm not without fault, but she was not looking for real fault. About 3 years after our wedding, my mother-in-law starts dating another man. This guy is around the same age as her, and meeting him once was enough to see that they were made for each other. He was rude and just as entitled as she was. Again, I tried to avoid her as much as possible, and that included avoiding him as well. Even my wife did not like this man, and he made comments saying that her mother should have done an arranged marriage to get money for her daughter. Totally disgusting. One day we were all out to dinner because they had big news and said that they really needed to talk to us. I caved in and I knew that I was gonna have an unpleasant dinner. I did not think that it would evolve into something as crazy as it did though. So we were at a nice restaurant and things were okay until after our entrees came out. My wife asked them what their big news was, and this was when my mother-in-law dropped the bomb. Mother-in-law: me and my boyfriend are getting married. Wife: oh wow, that's really nice. She was trying to be polite to avoid a fight and I just nodded and agreed with her. Mother-in-law: and we decided that we want to go to the Maldives for our honeymoon. Man: neither of us had a great first one, so we want to go all out this time. Fancy hotel, all the bells and whistles. Me: that sounds fun. Mother-in-law: but we need your help. Wife: do you want us to watch the cat while you are gone? Mother-in-law: no, see, we thought it would be a great wedding present for you two to pay for the honeymoon. Man: it is only $50,000, come on. With how much she took care of you guys, I think it would be the best way to repay her. Me: are you serious? We just bought a house. We don't have $50,000 just to use on a present. Wife: yeah mom, that sounds like a little much. Mother-in-law: well, if you married a nice Chinese boy like I told you to, I bet he would have plenty of money to give me for a honeymoon. Instead you marry this poor dumb Korean. That was when a fight broke out, but it was quiet enough to not draw too much attention. Her getting mad at our refusal to pay for this luxury honeymoon. The guy then said that we could just sell the house we bought and give them the money and it would work out just fine. My wife was angry at her mother, and while it wasn't the first time, it was the maddest I've ever seen her get. She told her mother that there was no way we were gonna pay for that, and I backed her up. I called her mother entitled and crazy and that this dinner was a mistake we should have never gone to. She just smiled before pulling out her cell phone and walking away. She came back a couple minutes later informing us that she had called the police and they were gonna arrest me now. I almost laughed because of how crazy that was, but still I was a bit worried. Her mother was not very big and I'm a decently sized man. Even with no evidence, they might take her word at face value, and I was debating trying to leave before they arrived. I stayed though, and soon all eyes were on us as the police walked in to deal with this. I found out she said that I had beaten her up and tried to force her to give us all her money. That I was crazy and threatened their entire family in order to get my wife to marry me in the first place. My jaw was on the floor at these lies, and the police decided to talk before just putting me in handcuffs. I told them I never touched her, and if I truly beat her up, they would have seen some kind of markings on her. Plus, somebody in the restaurant would have seen it happen, or their cameras would have caught it. They agreed, and after seeing no marks or reason to believe it, my mother-in-law got enraged. She demanded I be arrested for ruining their family, and then the police told her to calm down and that I did not do anything illegal. We were at a steakhouse, which means sharp knives with the food. She grabbed hers and actually tried lunging at me with it. She was restrained by the police, all the while now screaming about how horrible Koreans were and ruining their daughter's life. That all she simply wanted was a nice honeymoon, and I was the worst son-in-law for not providing it. This got the police's attention because it was the first time they heard of a honeymoon, and we had to explain the whole story. Still restrained, they got her to confess that she called them under false pretenses because I refused to give her the money that she asked for. For anybody that might not know, calling the police for personal use and not a real emergency is illegal. You can actually get arrested for misuse of emergency services, and that was one of the reasons she was put in handcuffs and taken outside. The other, obviously, for attempting to assault me right in front of them with a knife. Her man tried to catch up and work something out with the police arresting her. That was also a bad move, as you can imagine. He was then put in handcuffs because attempting to bribe a police officer is also illegal. Jeez, this woman was calling me dumb, but basically got herself and her future husband arrested by doing things most people know are a bad idea. Neither one of them felt bad about the whole thing, but my wife felt absolutely horrible. She kept apologizing like it was her fault and she should have never agreed to go out on this dinner. Honestly, I did not blame her in the slightest because she did not know what was gonna happen. Sure, dinners in the past with her sucked, but they never got violent or the police got involved. She decided that night to not be in contact with her mother any longer. That a woman who could try and take all her money and attempt to stab her husband was not really family. I understand it being hard going no contact with family even if they are bad people due to just attachment. My mother loves my wife like her own though, and that helps soften it slightly to still have a motherly woman in her life. We have no idea what happened with her mom, and honestly, we don't care. Update: upon further investigation, it was revealed that my mother-in-law had a history of erratic behavior and making false claims. Based on the evidence and witness statements, the police determined that her accusations against me were baseless and unfounded. Given the nature of the incident and the threat to our safety, my wife and I decided to file for a restraining order against my mother-in-law. The restraining order prohibited her from coming within a certain distance of us and having any form of contact with us. In addition to the restraining order, we also filed a defamation lawsuit against my mother-in-law for making false and damaging statements about me to the police and in the public eye. The lawsuit aimed to clear my name and hold her accountable for the harm she caused to my reputation. The restraining order and the lawsuit were both granted by the court, and my mother-in-law was ordered to undergo a psychological evaluation and treatment. She was also ordered to pay damages to us for the harm she caused to our reputation and mental well-being. Overall, it was a difficult and traumatic experience, but we were grateful for the legal remedies available to protect ourselves and hold my mother-in-law accountable for her actions. The restraining order and the lawsuit allowed us to move forward with peace of mind and help to restore our reputation and well-being. The next one is titled Epic Revenge. Alright, I got a story to tell from the finance industry. For those of you who don't know, it's basically just being a realtor but for companies instead of houses. This was a small investment banking firm and we specialize in smaller players. We are talking companies worth $20 to $50 million. Our customers are typically salt of the earth, built their entire company from nothing but a shed and a truck over the last 30 years, and now they want to retire. But seeing as how many of them never learned accounting and whatnot, they need representation. Now, one company has two 50% owners and they hate each other, cannot have a civil conversation. Now, having two 50-50 owners is always a recipe for conflict, but this level of hatred was something I had not seen before. It was pretty clear one of the two had done something pretty bad for it to devolve to this stage, so let's call one Tim and the other one Roger. My first impression of Roger is that he is a nice dude, down to earth, chill, and generally interested in things. My first impression of Tim is that he is a raging imbecile. We were at a restaurant and I and many other people in my city hold in very high regard, and all he did for an hour and a half was complain about the food. He talked down to and mocked a waiter who dared to ask him what he would like to drink and proceeded to order $1,000 of wine. He knew we were paying. My boss, having none of that, made it clear that Tim is paying for that bottle, which I suppose put him in a bad mood. I am somewhat obsessed with food and I spent an unwise amount of money on said food. I can sing you all the instrumental parts in the opening to Heston's Blumenthal's cooking show. We are here on my recommendation. I love this restaurant and I'm on first name terms with that waiter. The man starts talking down to me about my tastes after I order, says kids these days have no palate and that I should not be eating XYZ. Oh, and also apparently, donating to vaccine charities is a waste of money, and I am some sort of idiot for doing so. So, to be short, I don't like the guy. But not liking the guy is not really a reason to seek revenge, is it? Well, after talking to Roger, we find out why they hate each other. You see, Tim had been stealing money from his employees and the company. It turns out employees started getting random checks bounced and the company's lines of credit kept drying up, because Tim had been making some rather extravagant purchases on the company dime. He had adjusted employee payroll downwards and increased his own. He had used capital expenditures to build himself a house. Apparently, his continued justification is that none of what he did was illegal, which is technically true. He had helped grow the company, I suppose, and that he deserved more, but not his business partner. Roger ended up comping employees out of his own pocket and Tim refused to pay back a dime. So at this point the deal talks are going nowhere, as in Tim and Roger just cannot stand to communicate with each other at all. However, my boss, he hatches an idea. Why don't we just buy one of them out? We know how much the company is worth in the wider market, we'll just see if either is willing to take some cash upfront for their share of the equity. I make models all day and I know how much this company is worth. It is worth about $24 million. Tim's stake is therefore worth $12 million, which is complex, I know. Well, anyway, guess whose stake I suggest we buy? Tim's, of course. How much do I suggest we offer? $4 million. Now, to be clear, this type of thing has a downside, but Tim's reputation in his industry is not that good. In fact, after some canvassing, it turns out that most people know this company through Roger and don't like to deal with Tim at all. It turns out being a thieving a-hole is something one simply cannot turn off. Boss says okay, he will send an offer letter and NDA agreement, etc. Tim bites for $6 million and we sold the company 6 weeks later for $28 million total. F you, Tim. And yeah, ripe stars, that is a very expensive revenge/malicious compliance. Props to OP. If you enjoy these, let's say, business-related stories, then please let me know in the comments, because I know it's not everyone's cup of tea and I am here to read things that you enjoy. Either way, the next one is a mother-in-law revenge story. So this woman, Isabel, was one of my lecturers when I visited university, and she hated that I was dating her adopted son, aka biological nephew, since she found out about us. When we first told her we were dating, she tried to kill me after she found out I was pregnant, and she stalked us, impersonated me, and broke into our flat, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. She made our lives hell to the extent where we no longer felt safe in our own home, and my fiancé and I had to move across the country to escape her. We've been living in our new place for a little under a week. The baby is due in a couple of months and everything is mostly ready. We have deactivated our social media, created new emails, and even changed our numbers. Only a few friends and relatives from the town she lives in, which we left, have our new number. We had to leave our entire lives and everyone we knew and loved behind, while I was 7 months pregnant because we could not trust her around our baby. So now the revenge part. On Monday, an email was sent from the dean to Isabel's graduating students saying Isabel was being considered for a promotion from lecturer to head of department and they wanted to hear from her students first. The aim of this was to receive glowing recommendations to give to the board. This was not the result. As I changed my email, I had not seen this. One of my friends who had my new number and was on the course with me did see the email, and on Tuesday he gave my new number to the dean, saying that he would only give her the number in person on paper and only if she agreed to ring when she was alone and throw out the paper and erase it from the logs after. If she was calling from a university phone, then the number would go on the call logs that were accessible by all members of staff. But he assured her that this was something she would want to hear before promoting Isabel. So I got this call from the dean on Tuesday. She told me what was going on. My friend had not had time to get in touch before she rang, and she asked me why my friend thought I should speak to her. And I told her everything. I'd started 2 years ago when I met Isabel's son, the man who would become my fiancé and the father of my child. I told her about Isabel poisoning me via allergy after finding out about me and her son and the EpiPen incident. I told her about the outside-of-class harassment I received post-pregnancy announcement, aka impersonating me, crashing GP appointments, breaking in, etc. And I told her about the in-class harassment, aka telling me to break up with my fiancé, stopping lectures until I left, throwing out my food and drink, trying to reschedule exams and more. I told her about the last time I saw Isabel in person when she tried to hit me while I was 7 months pregnant with her grandchild. I told her about having to move away as I was careful to not give a location or distance and filing a restraining order to escape Isabel. I thought the university were made aware of their RO, but apparently not. Fiancé then arrived home from work, and when I told him what was happening, he was all too eager to chime in with stuff that I forgot about, like copying keys, punching the landlord, cancelling orders, going through our things, and he also told the dean about the abuse he got from her growing up. We also gave the dean the names of people willing to support our story, as well as some dates, times, locations of on-campus incidents, and I had made a note of a few of them so she could pull CCTV from the campus security recordings. Fiancé also told her the story of one of his cousins, Isabel's bio kid, who got close with a guy on Isabel's course, but the guy was told to break up with her by Isabel with a thinly veiled threat against his academic career. We then told the dean about Isabel telling me to break up with my fiancé and vice versa so she could better maintain professionalism. The dean was simply horrified. She had me and my fiancé record a video where we said everything all over again from the top. We made sure the video had nothing to identify location, and we were assured Isabel would never see it. We also sent her all the proof we had alongside it. This was all forwarded to the board on Wednesday and Thursday. She asked my friend for the number again and just called me for the second time, telling me that the board unanimously agreed this was grounds for Isabel's dismissal. They said that while the outside of uni events were not really their business, they go towards her character and the fact that as department head, she would represent the department whether she was on the clock or not. They said even without this, the events that happened inside of university alone, stopping lectures and telling me to dump my fiancé, telling that other guy to leave her daughter alone, throwing out my stuff, seeking special treatment on grounds of nepotism, were all abuses of power and enough to justify Isabel's dismissal. They asked me why I had not filed charges before, and I said all I had gained from filing charges is Isabel staying away from me, and the RO and moving away has the same effect. Plus, as it is exam season, my tutor work is really taking off and I don't have the time to go through a whole court case, and I will have even less time once the baby arrives. The baby is due in about 8 weeks and Isabel has already caused me enough stress. Tomorrow in the meeting where Isabel is fully expecting to be told she got her promotion, the dean is now going to give her a week to hand in her resignation. If she refuses, she will be fired. If she does not hand in her resignation, she will be fired too. She will not be getting a reference. The only reason she's being given the option to resign is that she has worked at this university for nearly a decade, but if she so much as raises her voice in the meeting tomorrow, she will be fired instead. Security will be present for the meeting in case she tries anything. Meanwhile, the friends we left behind are not hesitating to tell anyone who will listen all about what Isabel did during the course of my and my fiancé's relationship. There's not a single soul left in that town who trusts her or will take her side if she ever tries to fight back, not even her own husband, who told us that now all their kids are over 18, he will be initiating divorce proceedings. I don't even feel a little bit bad. I know there is a chance that I went too far, but I did not lie or embellish anything. I just gave the dean the facts as they are. Everything is 100% true, and while it was me who told the dean, I see this as Isabel's actions having consequences. Isabel has more than enough money to pay for herself for the foreseeable future. She owns her home, her husband's name is not on the deed, and she bought it before they got married, so she will get the house in the divorce as it is not technically a shared asset or one acquired during their marriage. She will have a roof over her head and money in her bank account, and if she wanted to, she could get another job, just probably not one as a lecturer. Final update to the story, the dean said the firing was happening last week. She said that if Isabel did not present as a danger to us to her, in other words, if Isabel lost her cool and yelled something like, This is all her fault. Then the dean could not break confidentiality, as we have not heard from her since we can only assume that she took it well. Or as well as possible. We have read your comments and replied, and we have talked and done some thinking, and we have agreed to look into legal options. We are still not sure about pursuing a court case, but we realize that Isabel is not just gonna let this go, and she won't be willing to just leave us alone. We also were not informed that the RO would have our address, and my fiancé was also hesitant because despite her actions, Isabel did for the most part raise him. We looked into it and it does not look like she actually adopted him, so that's something. We are gathering all the evidence we have against her, plus anything the dean, landlord or anyone else still has, and we are meeting a lawyer later this week as we agree that our personal safety and the safety of our kids should come first. Last update to the story: one day while my fiancé and I were out on a walk, Isabel ambushed us and physically attacked us both. She punched and kicked my fiancé, causing him to fall to the ground, and then turned on me, pulling my hair and scratching my face. The whole ordeal was over in a matter of minutes, but the physical and emotional scars that were left behind will last a lifetime. Isabel's actions were a clear case of assault and battery, and the evidence we gathered, including eyewitness testimony and medical reports documenting our injuries, proved beyond a doubt that she was responsible for the attack. We pressed charges, and with the help of law enforcement, we were able to bring her to justice. This was a terrifying and life-altering experience, but my fiancé and I were determined to see it through to the end. And now, after the guilty verdict and her sentencing, we can finally put this chapter of our lives behind us and move forward, stronger and more resilient than ever before. Isabel's sentence of imprisonment was not the end of her legal trouble though. It quickly became apparent that her actions were not simply the result of jealousy and envy, but rather a manifestation of deeper underlying mental health issues. After serving a portion of her sentence in prison, Isabel was transferred to a state-run mental hospital for evaluation and treatment. The court found that she was unfit to stand trial due to her mental state and ordered that she receive the necessary treatment and care to ensure her rehabilitation. The legal consequences of her actions were twofold: first, her sentence of imprisonment for the assault and battery charges, and second, her commitment to the mental hospital for treatment. The court recognized that her mental health was a critical factor in her criminal behavior and took the necessary steps to address the root cause of the problem. Isabel's stay at the mental hospital was not a sentence, but rather a chance for her to receive the help that she needed to recover and get her life back on track eventually. The hospital provided her with a supportive and therapeutic environment where she was able to receive the care and treatment she needed to address her mental health problems. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, then please don't forget to check out my endless playlist, which has thousands of videos and hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much, and I will see you again tomorrow.